So I recently interviewed Seb Alex for VeganFTA, who, if you don't know, is a world-renowned animal rights activist, but more importantly, and for the context of this video, is also an executive director at Middle East Vegan Society. They work for animal rights at policy level changes in countries within Middle East region, which also means that they predominantly work with the Muslim population. So I asked this question to Seb, and of course we are going to see his answer. And towards the end of the video, I've shared one key note and also one of my activism clip with a Muslim girl. Middle East Vegan Society, so you're operating out of an area where the Muslim community is dominant in terms of the population percentage. Yeah. What do you think is the attitude of the Muslim community in general, and what are the challenges and how do you navigate that?
A lot of people think it's more difficult, at least in the Middle East I can say it's not more difficult. In fact, it has been easier than many, let's say, European countries that I've been in when I have these conversations. Governments as well are usually more open to it, and institutions as well. So we are in touch with an organization based in the US that does corporate work as well, the same way that we do. And we're in touch with them because we wanted to see how they're doing it, and they were guiding us. And they were really surprised at how fast we were getting results. So something that would take us, let's say, 5 to 6 months, they would say, oh, this usually takes 2 years, But because in the Middle East, these entities like businesses or hospitals or hotels, usually it's more difficult for them to change, whereas for us, it's been much easier. There's also a study that was done by Euromonitor International, which is a data collecting company, that showed that Middle Eastern and African populations are much more likely to follow plant-based diets, follow vegetarian diets, reduce the consumption of meat, reduce the consumption of dairy products, compared to the rest of the world. So not even like a specific part of the world. Specifically, there was a 14% higher chance for someone from the Middle East or Africa to cut down on meat consumption than the rest of the world. So someone in Europe or the US or Australia, let's say. So that's something we've been seeing in our approach. Of course, we're not going to consumers and talking about reducing consumption of meat or something, or meat-free Mondays or something. That's not what we're doing, but having that data is really important, because then we can see, okay, so they are open, they are more open than the rest of the world. And yeah, it's been going well so far. When it comes to specifically the Muslim population, there's a whole religious aspect that you have to think about. And for that reason, we had a group of Muslim vegan activists led by Fawziya Jafan, who is on our team, prepare a breakdown and an initiative and a resource to understand what Islam is, to understand what animal rights is, and see if there's any possibility to believe both in animal rights and be a Muslim as well. It is, of course, a bit more nuanced than just saying yes. For example, in the religion of Islam, it is permitted to kill an animal, but it's not obligatory. So you can't really make the case of if you kill an animal, it's unethical, because then you're going directly against the teachings of the religion. But you can look into what else does the religion say. When it comes to killing, what guidelines does the religion oblige? Like, what does it say it should be the way of killing an animal? And if you really look into that information, you realize that all factory farms, all big slaughterhouses, none of them can exist in a truly a Muslim way, because there's things like the animal should not see the blood, or see an animal get killed, or the knife, or things like that. And then you walk into a slaughterhouse that has a halal certificate, and all the animals are hung upside down next to each other, getting their throats slit one by one. Well, that's not really halal. That's not what the guidelines obviously say. So you can use those things to talk about it, but you can also use the fact that the Quran itself shows more reward for you for helping animals, not even not harming them, helping them. So being an activist is even more rewarded than killing an animal. So based on that, it would become much easier to make the argument like, okay, within the religion it is permitted, but what does God reward more? Killing them or saving them and helping them? And it's very obvious, it's crystal clear. There's more things, of course. You can even get into the health aspect or the environmental aspect. The religion does say, well, in the Quran it says don't overuse water, even if you live next to a river with a high flow of water. And then you look at water consumption of the meat industry and the dairy industry. So like there's a lot of environmental arguments, yes, that also support following a plant-based diet. And so we've made this whole guideline and resource, and it's on our website on MiddleEastVeganSociety.org. We also have a very short version of it as a PDF, so activists worldwide can print it with a QR code as I said, we have just had it translated to Hindi as well. So if there's anyone interested in that, that will
Nice.
be available soon as well.
Nice. We'll definitely look into the Hindi one. Will definitely help in India. So I was going through their website, and the amount of work that they have put in to bring out certain nuances from the religious books of Islam and how they are pro animal rights. It's so deep actually, and it's definitely on my to read list, which might change my approach in future on how I talk to Muslims. But for now, this is one example of my activism with a Muslim girl, which happened recently. So do you think as a conscious generation, we should reflect on our choices, the choices that our parents were making, choices that the older generations were making? Don't you think it's an obligation on our side to reflect on our choices and then change?
Yeah, we have to actually change according to what you think. We have to change.
Do you think you will change individually?
Probably yes. But I don't know about that.
And since you mentioned that you are from a Muslim background, there are a lot of Muslims who have given up animal, consumption of any type of animal, any form of animal. There are a lot of Muslims who have done that. I have few friends. We do not have the right to abuse animals.
So probably I promise myself I'll change myself.
You'll change yourself? Yeah? And in doing so, do you think you will be violating your religious values?
No, I don't think that's not something we have to.
Exactly. Thank you so much for saying that. The reason I asked this question is because I talk to some Muslims and they say that it is an obligation in their religion that they have to kill animals. But then I also know a lot of Muslims who say no, it's not an obligation. In fact, some go one step ahead and say that Islam is a religion of peace, right?
Yeah, it is.
And by killing animals, it's not an act of peace, it's an act of violence, right? So one can even argue that killing animals is against Islam.
No, it's not. Killing
Animals is against Islam, because if you say that Islam is a religion of peace and then we are doing violence to these animals, then killing animals is against Islam. Something to think about. I'm not an expert on Islam by any means, right? I'm just putting this thought out there to think about it. Thank you so much for watching this video, and in case you are new here, then consider subscribing. On this channel, we talk about critical thinking on how to grow as a human being while making ethical choices in life. We talk about various social issues like animal rights, feminism, conscious living, so on and so forth. And I genuinely hope that you stay with us on this journey. And until we meet again, this is Shivam signing out. Namaste.